Nog's favorite human food is squid. Michael Eddington wants his lucky loony back, and the Defiance engines are too powerful. It's like a Ligorian mastodon moving through the forest. You may not be able to see it, but it definitely makes the leaves rustle. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, everyone.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today, we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 5, Episode 23, Blaze of Glory, written by Ira Steven Behr and Robert Hewitt Wolf, directed by our good friend, Kim Friedman. We are joined today by Malissa Longo. It's a Nog episode, everyone.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey, Nog!
Yay, Nog. Yay, Ira. Yay, Robert. And yay, Kim. Boy, this is a party. This is a party. So everybody at home, it's your favorite time of the week. It's time to relax. It's time to tell your spouse to shut the fuck up because you're busy right now. It's time to put the kids to bed. It's time to put the kids to bed. It's time to put the dogs outside. This is your time. That's all I got.
This is your time. All right. Let's go out on the Blaze of Glory.
It's time for some. Let's give a quick shout out, by the way, to our good friend, Commander Homer Frizzell. He had some difficulties with the family, some tragedy recently, and we want to give him a big shout out. One of our favorite humans in the world, one of our very first supporters on the round table, I think possibly our very first round tabler, he and John Tufarella, one of our first associate producers. He's been with us through thick and thin since the very beginning. Lots of love to Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy.
New Yeezy. Nice.
Yeah.
Much love to Homer.
Definitely.
We're always wish him the best. He's a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good wife, Melissa, too, right?
Yeah,
he's got a good wife.
Right.
Yeah,
great.
Shout out to her.
Yes.
Here we go.
So, yeah, Jake and Nog back together again, like old school.
Jake is puking in a napkin.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's funny when I was eating and I was like, whoa, I'm taking big bites of that. I must like that. I wonder what that is, you know? I forgot what food it was.
Do you remember now?
I don't. No, I don't remember what it was. Could have been oatmeal for all I know, but when I was watching the episode, I said, oh wow, you just took a big bite. It must be tasty. And then just as I was saying that, I forgot that, I'm going to end up spitting it out in a second.
I mean, it looks pretty bad. Check this out. I was looking at it earlier and I was like, what is going on there, man? See that? What is that? It looks like, okay, it's definitely like shell pasta, right?
Right.
Like
some kind of shell pasta.
Yeah. With squid and I guess like throw up or something is in there. Like
it looks like
yeah, it was a bowl of
me.
Is it? Oh, maybe noodle, but it was.
I think
like
they're little spiral noodles.
Yeah, almost ramen-y look.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
You're not liking it. You are not happy right now.
That was priceless.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Jake and I both share in common is that we don't like experimenting with food that we think is disgusting just by the name of it, right?
Mm.
So I do have that in common. I'm the guy who's like, nah, I don't want to try that. They're like, just take a bite. Nope, thank you.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm not a huge experimenter either nowadays, but
Nog is so happy.
Look at that face. That's amazing.
Yeah,
he is in seventh heaven.
Everybody that's listening in right now is like, what are they laughing at? We're just seeing a picture of Aaron taking a bite of his tube grubs, and it looks hilarious. He's making a great face
with his beautiful nails.
Anyway, what a great way to open an episode. It was like the good old days. Remember how back in the day there would always be like the episode would always open up with Jake and Nog talking, or Jake, and Captain Sisko. You know, there'd always be like that little slice of life, that little home feel. And then they kind of went away from it for a while. So it's great to have those openers that are always so fun and endearing.
It felt like
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I felt like that this episode kind of had that smattering of day-to-day life on Deep Space Nine throughout the episode, and it was nice to open with that day-to-day life.
Now, there's some nerds at home right now saying that's a Next Generation episode, Data's Day. It's a very good episode. It's called Data's Day. Check it out.
Data's Day.
Yeah.
On my Data's Day. But yeah, and what I thought was pretty interesting is that they started the episode with Sisko cooking and preparing this meal for Jake and Nog. And later on in the episode, when Eddington and Sisko are having this kind of discussion at some point, he brings up the fact that you remember when you cooked that Thanksgiving dinner. So they referred back to this kind of day-to-day, stuff that is not necessarily Starfleet related, but just about human relationships and sitting down and having a meal together. And so the significance of that is really heavily accentuated in this episode. Just two people getting and having dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, right, there was a second reference to the cooking when Eddington told Sisko, you put too much tarragon in the something or other.
That was the same conversation.
That was
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about Thanksgiving. You put too much tarragon in the stuffing.
Stuffing, right. That's what it was, in the stuffing.
Yeah.
And then he was complaining about the replicators and all that. That was a fun time. Replicated entree
103?
number 103, exactly. I was like, is that like a rule of acquisition? But I was like, they're never going to name another one ever again. There's just going to be the one. And we're never going to hear another one after that. So why bother writing that down?
And that's funny because it actually, when he said that, reminded me of a Lower Deck type of thing to do. To like memorize all the replicator entree numbers,
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, maybe they'll do that on Lower Decks. Name another entree.
You're right. Entree number 104, 103, and then that a little
it's
nugget.
pesto.
Exactly.
Hey, save it for the Lower Decks reviews, you guys. No spoilers.
They
No
rub off on us.
teasers.
They're really good. They're really good at rubbing off on us.
Yeah.
But no, the other thing that I like too is the camaraderie between Jake and Nog. There was like moments there where Jake's kind of ribbing him about his, he's like, God, I got to listen to this guy complain about this all the time. And that's all he does is talk to me about how he's not getting respect from these Klingons. So that was one aspect that I liked. And then I also like when he kind of rubbed it in, he's like, or you get your butt kicked,
Yes. I love the way they tease each other. In the beginning, it's Jake razzing Nog about, always going on and on and on about the Klingons. And I can see Aaron doing that, going on and on and on about the Klingons. If it was Aaron. And then it turns around and Jake Nog is razzing Jake about the girl in his room and never getting past talking.
Oh man. Yeah, that was
never get past talking.
Boy, oh boy, them's fighting words. Nog's raising up the temperature right there, isn't he?
He's
it's so real. Like that relationship between them is so wonderfully real.
And that's kind of how we would go back and forth in just, in our own real life relationship, just those little rashes back and forth. And it was always out of the, the kindness and goodness of it. It was always in the best interest. It wasn't meant to cut each other down. It was just like, come on, man, you can't fool me. I know you, you like this, you're like this, you don't like, you don't go past first base. You're like this. You wake up early, you snore. So it's like, it's kind of a reminder of how good and how close they are together. It was funny because Jake should have been like, "How do you know? Like, what are you watching me when I'm in my room?"
He's got the ears; he can listen in.
Yes, he does have the ears.
Yeah, he's over there shaking his head like, "Poor Jake."
And he's probably putting the pillow over his ears and like, will they never shut up? Because they probably hear you talking.
Yeah, I can imagine that too. And then his early morning workouts, that's nice.
Oh yeah.
Right. Right. And then,
but I was
going to say, and then we also get a little bit more of Nog dealing with, Martok and the Klingons, and kind of his storyline that goes into his career side of his story. Meanwhile, Jake is there still the whole time, kind of encouraging him, kind of razzing him, like in the picture behind Malissa, where Nog falls over, but Jake is still there, cheering him on or razzing him or saying, "What are you going to do?" But they're hanging out together. I don't know if Nog's allowed to hang out with his friends on the job, but whatever, that's what he's doing. And then when he goes up on the promenade, that was another great time, and Jake is there still. So it's cool that they could have left the Jake and Nog stuff at the Sisko's quarters or in the hallways, and then let that be it. And then, Nog is talking with Odo instead of Jake, with the Klingons. But it was really cool that they extended that beyond just the home life and into the Klingon storyline. I was really happy to see that because, that's what people wanted to see, honestly. Like, we don't really need to see Nog telling Odo, "Boy, I need to get those Klingons." We'd rather see him talking with his friend Jake about it.
Well, that makes more sense. It makes more sense that he would confide in Jake than Odo.
Yeah. And because there's a different way that Nog interacts with like the higher ranking officers and whatnot. He talks to them in the respect that you would have in, the military. So he doesn't really openly vent and feel comfortable to say whatever's on his mind to people like Odo, or Chief O'Brien. He's going to be like, "Sir, we need to do it like this," But when Chief O'Brien wasn't looking, like we saw in a few episodes back, when he wasn't looking and he had his head underneath the panel, Nog was like, "Ah."
Right. Oh, that was Worf. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Worf, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Ah, you're annoying me. I just want to choke you." So he now obviously doesn't say everything that's on his mind around, certain personnel, right? But when he's around his buddy Jake, he's like, "These guys are pissing me off. I'm going to get my revenge." I like how Jake also saved him from getting his butt kicked in Sisko's quarters. He's like, "Now's not the time."
Oh, man, that was so good.
Let's go.
Yeah. Because Nog goes, "That's it."
That's it.
And that was perfectly normal. He comes in, he's like, "Captain, I need to speak with you alone." And then Nog's like, "All right, no more. We're having it out." And they're like, no, that's...
I've reached the end of my tether. You said hello.
Yeah, this is not the time to pick that fight right there.
Yeah, that was great.
So yeah, Jake saved his buddy from embarrassing himself at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's also a testament to Nog's character that he's so eager to follow direction and practice what he's learned or been told by Sisko. So he's like, "Okay, that's it. I'm ready. Let's do it." Gloves are off. But no, not right now.
He got the pep talk, and that gave him some beer muscles, some confidence, where he's like, I've got the authority now to go ahead and just, as soon as I see them stepping across the line, it's kind of like when I don't know if any of you know about this. I'm sure maybe not, but as a kid, there's a moment in time when you're being bullied or somebody's confronting you and you're in school or something, and your mom or dad will say, well, stand up to them, and don't back down. Don't let them treat you like that, and if you have to, you got to, fight them. And you're like, whoa, it changes your whole perception of the situation. At first you're like, oh, well, I just have to be, I'm scared of this person. But then once you get this kind of permission slip from your parents, you're like, oh, okay. And the next time you see them, you're like, you better stay away from me, or I'm going to kick your butt. And, you start having that extra toughness because you've been authorized to stand up for yourself. You've been authorized to
sometimes
not allow yourself to be bullied.
Sometimes you hadn't thought of that because you're listening to the teachers who say no fighting, and so they're like, okay, right. I guess no fighting. But if your parents can outrank them, right? I know, right. For myself, like what you're saying, my mom, little French lady, she used to say all the time to me when I was a little, ever since preschool, she'd be like, Ryan, if somebody hits you, you hit them back twice as hard, because that's what she learned how to defend herself when she was a little thing. And so I would. And then, of course, I was the one that always got in trouble because then you beat up a kid and then you're the one in trouble. But I'm like, I'm just doing what, and I remember all the way up in middle school, some kids start a fight, whatever. I did what I did. And, and then I'm in the principal's office and the principal calls my mom at work and they're like, Ryan got into a fight, blah, 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 blah. And then they go, oh, you want to talk to him? Okay. So they hand the phone over to me and I think I'm about to be in trouble. I pick up the phone and my mom goes, did you kick his little ass? And I'm like, yes, I did. But I had to pretend like I was in trouble. I was like, yeah, oh, yes, but I didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I've only had one altercation in middle school and I was the one who walked away. So I didn't let it get to that point. But my mom would have said,
there's wisdom in that too.
In the face, but
your mom would have said to punch her in the face.
But but no, I was like, no, I prefer nonviolence if at all cost.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
but I kind of like Ryan. My mom was like, if anybody hits you or tries anything, you have to defend yourself. Defend yourself. Make sure that you draw the line right there. And so you kind of felt like you had the permission. And I had the same story happen as Ryan, where I got into a fight at school. I was in the principal's office. The principal's like, I'm going to call your mother. And I was like, go ahead.
Make my day.
Go ahead. So my mom gets on the phone. She's like, what happened? I was like, this is what happened. He swung at me, tried to punch me. And I punched him in the nose. And that's what happened. And he got a bloody nose. And she's like, good job. And then gets back with the principal, so you're suspending kids for defending themselves and,
nice.
Standing their ground. And the whole thing kind of, was handled between them. But I know that I wasn't in trouble for defending myself. And I was like, hey, go ahead. You can call her. It's like if you're in your house and somebody breaks in your house and, you get your gun and you shoot them. People are like, oh, you just killed somebody. Well, I'm going to call the police. Like, go ahead.
Don't fuck around and find out.
Call the police and tell them. Let them know.
Melissa's like, you should just walk away. Just go out the window, which is true.
I think there's so many problems that could have been solved without having to dive into our baser instincts. And I've never had a bloody nose, any broken bones, and
you're missing out.
Things like that. Well, I don't feel like I am. I'm happy to have not had those experiences. But it was a moment in the choir room and in middle school, and somebody was getting in my face about something. And I was like, you know what? This isn't worth all of the trouble that you're making it into be. So I'm just going to leave. And I did. And it ended there.
And just to bring that and tie that back into this episode, I feel like it was like Nog, in trying to stand up for himself and not be pushed over and being bullied, he he's almost looking to initiate that kind of a thing, right? He's like, if I could, I want to fight somebody that just so I can prove to them that, you know, you've crossed the line. And so he's looking for things that are not necessarily directed at him, right? Like the decibel level in the bar, you know, it's like 5 decibels above disturbing the peace, you know. Those kinds of things are kind of like looking to pick something. And that's why I think it was in natural instinct for Jake to try to push him back and be like, I don't know if you should be doing that, you know, not now. There will be a time, you know. And even when Nog's like, they're sitting in our spot in the promenade.
Oh, that was the one that really, he's like, they're doing it just to, oh boy.
They know that's my spot. They know, you know.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And I think it stems from a place of constantly being overlooked and constantly being brushed aside. Oh, it's just Nog. He's just the Ferengi. He's, you know, and Aaron had that experiences in his own life, underestimated all the time. You know, I can relate to that too, being underestimated and overlooked all the time for one reason or another. And his reason for picking his battle, so to speak, is so that he does get that acknowledgement. He's looking for a way to stop being the one who's constantly overlooked and going, oh, it's just Nog, you know, or it's just that Ferengi. So I think he does it in Nog's way, of course, but in a good way that does earn him the respect that he's looking for. And he just wants to be acknowledged, as we all do.
Excellent points.
And
that's Sisko that kind of gave him that permission, because that was something that was festering in him for a while. And Sisko kind of just basically gives him the feeling of like, well, do something about it. You know, you're allowed, you can do it. And so at that point, Nog's just looking for any excuse. At this point, he's like, all right. Right. I mean, we've all kind of been there where you're just playing things out in your head and you're like, just give me the excuse, man. Just give what'd you say? No, I just said hello. Oh, okay. Well,
what are you looking at? Looking at like, I'm just looking like, you know.
we're like ready to pounce.
You looking at me? You're like, no, I'm just, you know, I'm at a restaurant.
It looks like you're looking at me.
So I mean, and it's great. And I actually like the scene with Nog and Martok when he finally does run up to him and kind of confront him and say, hey, you know, don't be hanging out around here on my spot, buddy. Keep it moving. Find your own spot. And you see that moment where Martok is kind of like, it seems like he gets it, right? He's like, oh, I've been overlooking this guy. He wants me to take notice of him. He wants me to respect him, and he wants me to hear him out, right? And he's like, okay, I see what's going on here. I see you. I hear you. I acknowledge you. And I'm not looking for a fight with you. You know, I'll keep it moving. I thought that was a nice little moment. So they, without actually having a violent scene or Nog stepping too far out of character in order to get this respect, I thought it was just enough where he stood up for himself. He didn't have to cross the line and be physical. But he also gained the respect that he was looking to get at the same time too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that Martok recognized a little bit of Klingon in Nog. He may have even said that. I can't remember, but a little bit of a little bit of Klingon and Nog, which is like, okay, I get this guy. He's cool.
We've got to run to a break real quick, but hold that thought. We're also going to talk a little bit about Michael Eddington, and boy, that is a juicy thing to discuss as well. We'll be right back on the other side on the 7th rule. It's going to be a super quick break. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Malissa Longo. This is a fun one. Here we go.
Hello.
Trivioids time. Time for the trivioids. Squid is Nog's favorite food. I believe it was human food. Captain Sisko makes sauce out of pureed tube grubs. Klingons never look Nog in the eye. The Maquis have launched missiles at Cardassia, supposedly. The Maquis had access to tri-cobalt explosives, biogenic weapons, and antimatter warheads. A saber bear is most deadly when it is trapped with no hope of escape. Martok tells us that. The Defiance engines are too powerful. It's like a Ligorian mastodon. That's a Trekkian name. Moving through the forest, You may not be able to see it, but it definitely makes the leaves rustle. Boy, what a piece of news there. Everybody knows replicator entree number 103 is curried chicken with rice and a side order of carrots. Sisko put too much tarragon in his stuffing, and Michael Eddington wants his lucky loonie back, which is a Canadian coin, apparently. I didn't know that.
No, it is not. A loonie is a Canadian coin, though. Oh, that's what he really wanted, is Canadian coin back?
Yeah, he said
That's what he said.
Yeah, he says that he says there's a coin with a bird on it. It's my lucky loonie. It's Canadian or whatever he says.
It is a Canadian coin, yeah. They have toonies and loonies and
toonies and loonies.
Yeah, the toonies are $2, and the loonies are $1. $1 Canadian, I think. So, yes, they do have toonies and loonies, and I didn't know that was the reference. I heard it, and I was like, that must be something else. It can't be about this Canadian loonie coin. Good, but I guess it is.
It was.
Wow,
Yeah.
Interesting. So he must be Canadian, this guy, Michael Eddington.
Right. That's the guess there. And he said they've been passing it along through generations on his family.
I wonder if him not getting it back was a foreshadowing to his luck running out.
Oh,
very good.
Deep diving, Malissa.
Wow. I know. We got to step it up, Cirroc.
Jeez. You just made my notes look bad.
I know. I'm going to delete all this crap. I'm right.
Well, because I was wondering why they referenced the coin and then didn't bring it back up again. But then I was like, oh, because this was, his luck has run out. So he doesn't have his coin anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Epiphany.
No, you know what? And it's funny because, I told you in the beginning, I never really liked Eddington. Mm-hmm. And I always was distrustful of him. I always felt like he had like a secret agenda or something. He had ulterior motives. And we eventually found out that, his connection with the Maquis and what he was doing and undermining Sisko and the rest of the DS9 crew. But this episode is more of like a redemption episode for Eddington. I thought we were done with Eddington, which is the funny thing, right? It's like you always think you're done with something, and then boom, Star Trek brings it. And they bring it right back. He was still
alive, so there's always a chance.
Yeah, he's still alive, and then they actually showed him in this like prison space station like looking thing, and I was like, well, that's a cool like design. What is that? A spaceship? Yeah. And then obviously we cut to Eddington, but I think. One of the things the writers on this show do a good job of is making dynamic characters that are not just one face. They're just not singularly layered. There's multiple layers to somebody, and sometimes they're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons or the wrong thing for the right reasons. And it's always complicated. It's never just, hey, this guy's a bad guy and, bad, good, good, bad. Yeah. It's always like, is he bad? Is he good? Do I like him? Do I not like him? Even with Quark, there's moments where you're like, Quark is so shady and such a scumbag. He's willing to do anything and sell out anyone for money. And then you're like, actually, he's a pretty good guy and he stands up for people. And so there's moments when right. So you're always on the fence, like which version of him am I going to get this episode? Somebody that I hate or that I like, and. Eddington, I've hated this whole time, and like for the first time, actually, was like, oh, okay, this episode made him look more. In the beginning, he started off just as the same guy I hated because he was in that jail cell with his, hands behind his head and like, hey, yeah, just waiting. I'm just waiting for this whole place to blow up. Screw you, get out of here, And then he gave Sisko the talk, like, you just want to control me, you just want to see me, you just like to be in control and this and that. And I guess the whole reason I'm making this whole long soliloquy is to say that I like the way there is a chess game between Sisko and Eddington. And I believe that those two have some of the best dynamics of playing this chess game of trying to one up each other or having, making somebody other do what they want them to do, even if it's against their will, so they play these games with each other that I think brings out some of the, best in Sisko.
Mm-hmm. I wrote down in my notes about Eddington because I've always disliked Eddington from the beginning too.
What?
Anytime he came on screen, I was like, Eddington.
Yeah.
And one of my notes was like, gosh, Eddington just talks too much. He just talks way too much. And then it dawned on me that there's kind of a theme in this episode, and that maybe the reason he talks so much is that he just wants to be significant. He just wants to be heard. He just wants his views to mean something to someone. And that's kind of what Nog was doing with the Klingons. He just wants to be seen. He just wants to be heard. He just wants to be relevant in this environment. And I think that's why Eddington talks as much as he does, because he's hoping that whatever he says lands somewhere, or he'll get some sort of reaction out of someone, that particularly Sisko.
Yeah, he's also an excellent comedian, because I don't know if you noticed, but he got the biggest laugh out of Sisko that we may have ever seen on this entire show. I don't remember what the line was, but they were talking about something on the ship, and Sisko just let out the biggest belly laugh. I did have to play that a couple times, so it's a rarity. It's a rarity. But then I kind of made a note about, wow, so he's the funniest guy Sisko's ever met. Or Sisko has had a couple of these sarcastic, mocking laughs in the past, where somebody says something and Sisko's just laughing, like, you must take me for a fool, or haha, we're all laughing right now, but guess who's going to be laughing later? And I don't remember exactly what the line was, but it was a good one.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah. And what I was alluding to was the scene where essentially Sisko is like, well, looks like 2 Jemadar ships are coming this way. I wonder what you're going to do about it. I'm going to be over in the back having some coffee. And he forces Eddington into the position of like having to do something about it, right? He's like, you wanted to die by the Jemadar. Here's your chance. And now Sisko's risking his own life, and he's risking his, he's putting it all on that. It's like, it's a big strategic type of chess move, right? To say, well, it's on you, buddy. It's on you. I'll have a rock to Gino.
Well,
that was great.
But I think Sisko was far more in tune to Eddington than Eddington actually realized, and that
vice
was his
versa.
moment. But he knew that he didn't have a death wish. He knew that was all just posturing to get a reaction out of Sisko. Sisko called his bluff.
I did really like it when he was doing the Ractigino bit, where he was just kind of like, hey, what? Like, he was so supremely confident that he's like, I'm 100% positive that you are going to save us right now. It didn't even feel like Sisko was bluffing. It felt as though he's like, I got you pegged. I know we're not playing a game of chicken where it's like, who's going to blink first? It's, I know you're going to blink, and I'm going to make myself some Ractigino.
Yes.
Yeah. And then starts going on about how the Klingons make the best coffee and this and that. I'm like, this is, he's so relaxed and comfortable. And then I would say that Eddington gets him back in the moment where he's like, we have to wire the engines and this and that. And Sisko's like, that it could blow up the ship, and he's like, yeah, well, looks like you're going to have to do that. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you here.
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets him back into this moment where it's like, now you're forced to do something. And I know for a fact you're going to do it. So I'll just be sitting back here while you go ahead and do what you got to do. So they had this back and forth kind of one-ing up each other and playing this mental manipulation game, which I thought was really good.
And I do like that Sisko is able to get into the trenches, so to speak. He's able to do all of these other jobs that one might, as a commander, might not expect to do. And he doesn't hesitate to apply what he knows. And he knows a lot because he's been there and he's worked his way up. And I like seeing that, those skills in action, because you don't always get to see those. And I made a note about him ordering Ractigino, and I was like, gosh, I love that Sisko samples foods and beverages from other species and how this is something that's important to him. And I think that's fascinating and wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool that there's a lot of interspecies exchanging of food and goods like Hasperat and Ractigino. Tube grubs isn't really taken on too well with the other species, but they're working on it. But a few of the things.
Just to piggyback on what you were saying, Melissa, I do like how Sisko is able to kind of do multiple things. So he's able to kind of serve as the science officer sometimes, the engineer, and sometimes he's the captain always. So he wears a bunch of hats, and he's not afraid to get down and dirty in the trenches, crawl through the tunnels, get in the conduits. He's not like one of those guys like, I can't get dirty, I'm the captain, send somebody else to go do that for me. He's rolling his sleeves up and he's getting in there. But Eddington, once again, this calculation, Sisko getting this message, which I was the whole time saying, wow, there's these cloaked missiles headed, for the Klingon Empire. This is about to go down. I was fearful of that this was the beginning of a big war, right? And so that was even cleverly kind of orchestrated in some way by Eddington, so that we can fool you and still get our things across. Another thing that I thought Eddington did a clever job of, and really this goes to the writers, but was the fact that he brought up Cal Hudson to Sisko.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
When he needles him about Cal Hudson, how you're, just like your buddy Cal Hudson, you wonder how he's doing, because he's not doing too well right now. He's
chilling.
He died. He's chilling. He's literally chilling.
Yeah, and
that struck a nerve with Sisko, right?
Oh my gosh, it was a huge blow for him. And
it
masterfully
was great.
Executed by Eddington too.
Right. It was great when he told him, Cal forgave you, but you never forgave him. And that's a really poignant kind of moment where we kind of learn a little bit more about those characters, because Eddington always seemed to be kind of the flaw in Sisko, the chink in his armor. He was always kind of like the red mark on his record. And he was his whale, Moby Dick. And he was always kind of like the thing where he's straddling that line between just doing his job, getting the fugitive, and making it personal and getting revenge. And he had that same kind of relationship with Cal Hudson, although it was a little bit more amicable, especially at the end there. But it does show that, look, Cal had, and Michael Eddington seemed to have, a clear conscience, because in their minds, they are doing what they truly believe to be right. Whereas Sisko's conflicted, because he's partially doing what his duty is and partially saying, no, this is personal. I got to handle this. And it's really interesting. And anyway, I was glad that they brought up Cal Hudson, because we really liked the character and it was a good moment. And a Nam for Cal Hudson, by the way. He was one of the 2 Nams of the day.
And I think also what it did for me was it reminded Sisko that he has empathy for the Maquis. Like he was supporting Cal Hudson. Like Cal gave a very good argument for why he was the way he was. And Sisko really didn't have a rebuttal for it, right? They kind of agreed to disagree a little bit. Mm-hmm. They were like, all right, well, that's what you're going to do. I guess good luck to you, right?
Not great luck, but good luck.
Yeah, and I'm going to look the other way on whatever it is that I'm supposed to be reporting or talking about. I'm going to look the other way on it. And you do whatever you got to do. So I think that reminder was like Eddington saying, I'm on the good guy's side. You keep treating me like I'm a bad guy, but I'm really I'm on the good guys. You know, we might not be going about it by the way you want us to go about it, but technically we're still one of the good guys, right? And I think that's what he was trying to convince him, Sisko of. Like, remember Cal, your buddy Cal, you know?
Right, and that's something kind of you were talking about earlier about giving the bad guys more depth, and this is what Star Trek does so well, is that more often than not, you could make the argument that the only reason we're rooting for this side over the other side is because we're being told the story from this perspective. If it was Star Trek Maquis, and we were watching it from their perspective, and their main characters were Michael Eddington and Rebecca, whatever her last name was, and his wife, and Cal Hudson, and Ro Laren, and all these people. If those were the people who we were following for 5 seasons, we would find the people in Starfleet to be relatable, but still not quite who we're rooting for. We're still rooting for the Maquis. So they do a great job of giving the characters enough depth to where that the reason we're rooting for one side beyond the other is usually just because that's whose story we're being told, from their point of view.
Yeah, and I think that Deep Space Nine does this really well, is that they play with the gray a lot. There's no absolute right or wrong answer to a solution. So I love how they navigate the gray, the in between, and of a moral dilemma, because there are no easy answers, and you have to work for it. And Deep Space Nine does that so masterfully, I think. Yeah.
Rebecca Sullivan, that was her last name. Did not want to forget that.
Oh, and I had a nitpick about Rebecca Sullivan.
Okay, we're
you
ready.
Haven't seen, and Eddington, you haven't seen your husband in how long, and he's been stuck in a prison, and they're like, oh, hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
There's no affection whatsoever between the two of them. And I'm just like, oh.
Or powerful sense of relief from Eddington when he sees all these dead bodies, and then he's thinking, oh my God, my wife is dead. And he sees his wife and he's like, good. So what's up? What's going on? No, I mean, he'd be like beside himself. He'd be wrapping his arms.
Did you have oatmeal for breakfast?
Tube grubs.
Tube grubs. Right. So that was my nitpick.
Clearly they weren't happily married.
2 weeks in, and they were already like, all right. She's already like, good, I'm glad he's gone. That 2 weeks was a bit much for me.
He's like, oh, you're still alive.
Cool. Right.
Nice to see you too. Yeah. But it was actually clever of them to deceive Sisko in the way that they did in order to get them down there and to get rescued or whatever. That's all pretty clever. But the line that I was mentioning earlier that Eddington says to Sisko is, he says, you like deciding the fate of others. It makes you feel important.
Ooh.
And I think Eddington, he really gets in Sisko's head sometimes by, trying to psychoanalyze him and saying, this is why you do what you do, and you like to do this, and this this is you get joy out of this, and you made it personal when it wasn't personal, and you've crossed the lines at these various points, and Eddington is making valid points when he says what he's saying. It's not falling on deaf ears with Sisko. Sisko's like, damn, this guy's got me pegged.
But I also think he's talking about himself too, because Eddington has done those very same things. And he's playing with people's lives to make himself feel important. It's I think he's talking about himself too.
Projection. And that might be why it's so personal for Sisko. Look, all the bad guys are always trying to say stuff to get under their skin, but it doesn't usually work. Sometimes somebody does say something that actually hits to his core, and that's why it becomes personal. Like when Garrick says something to Sisko, it doesn't matter how deep he goes, he can laugh it off because he's like, this is Garrick. I know what I'm dealing with. Don't listen to him. Don't let him get to you, but every once in a while, someone can say something to Sisko that makes me go, all right, now it's personal, punk. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want my attention now. You just got it, and I'm going to give it to you. And I think that once again, Eddington has, just looking back now, has been one of the best rivals for Sisko. He brings out a certain thing about him. They have this. He's he's able to kind of outsmart Sisko. I think, and that was the biggest thing that offended Sisko, is that he was outsmarted. He didn't like being outsmarted by Eddington. He's like, damn, the guy deceived me, he outsmarted me. like he tricked me, And that upset Sisko more than anything. That's what made him make it personal, right? He said, son of a gun, the guy outsmarted me. I don't like
he got me.
Yeah, he got me.
Yeah.
And that's what made it personal for Sisko. And I think he did go a little bit too far across the line. And I also thought it was interesting that he would have to now come to him while he's in jail and basically ask for his help, right? I don't know if they played that enough for me. They could have played it even more, where it's like Sisko has to take his ego down a notch and kind of beg for help. I would have liked to see even more of that played out, like where he's like, Eddington realizes he has the upper hand. You need me, kind of like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, right?
Yeah.
Right. One of those kinds of scenes where he says, Sisko's like, are you going to do it or not? He's like, well, I'm still waiting for an apology or something like that, to where like Sisko's like, okay, all right, if it'll get you to do it, I'm sorry. And it's just like eating him up. He's just like, he's killing him with his eyes. He's like, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you go save the Alpha Quadrant with me now, please?
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah. I could see Ducat doing that with Sisko. Definitely. And not having any qualms about, I'm waiting for an apology. Before I do anything for you.
Ducat would do that to Kira, probably. And I feel like he may have something along those lines where he's like, all I want is for you to understand me, Major. What? I'm not a monster, or whatever he does. We do have to hit up our free-for-all in just a second here, but I'm sure there's a lot more for us to continue to talk about because this is such a juicy episode. Oh, yeah. Real quick, Jake, Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Okay. I was into this episode, Eddington episode. I'm going to say a 7.7. That's where I'm going to go with it right now.
This kid is getting sharper every day. 7.6. Wow. You know the IMDb
Pretty
voters. Close. You know them. They're like your personal friends.
Scales in my head now.
So very quickly, a very special thank you to Carmen, aka Skillet, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Homer Freezy out somewhere in New Yeezy, Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Anne Marie Segal, Titus Mohler, Tim Baum, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, John Mann, Mark Roco, Darlena Marie, and Rex. 4 A's Wood. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Everybody stick around. We're going to the free-for-all right now. We'll be right back on the seventh rule.
Well, welcome to the free-for-all. Ryan's already laughing at me. I told you I'm not good at this. I'm Marie Segal, and you already know Malissa, Ryan, and Cirroc. Then we have Eve England from out in Wales, Dr. Susan Gruner, Homer Freezy from New Yeezy, and Tim Baum, Grandpa won.
Very nice.
Hey, Grampy won. Nicely done.
Yeah, perfect. So today we're talking about Blaze of Glory. And I feel like there was still more stuff to discuss. So if you guys want to just jump back into it, Homer, do you want to lead us off on any thoughts that you have on the episode? By the way, great shirt. You've got a chat pack shirt, walking art made by Melissa.com. You can find that description box below. Eve England also has a cat pack shirt, looks like. Dr. Sue Gruner has an Abyssinian kiosk shirt and a walking art bracelet. Wow, we are on fire, Tim. Cirroc looks like he's got an Abyssinian kiosk shirt. Melissa probably has a walking art shirt. Yes, chat pack. And Anne-Marie.
Where are the batleth earrings from, Sue?
I can't remember where I got them, but they're from Etsy.
Oh,
And
amazing.
you and Eve, I think, turned me on to the place. This is the same place that makes the cloaked Klingon in the Enterprise. Yeah.
Oh, that was brilliant.
There's
And Anne-Marie's probably wearing a seventh rule shirt.
Seventh rule. Yeah.
Find
Okay.
that in the
Seventh rule shirt. One of my 3 t-shirts in this design, but also Christmas Abyssinian kiosk.
Oh, she's ready.
Yeah,
Very
I'm ready
nice.
for holidays.
So everybody at home, check out the description box below. You can get stuff at abyssiniankiosk.com and walking art made by Melissa.com and our Teespring store or Spring store / the seventh rule, or just go to Spring or Teespring and look up the seventh rule. Sorry, Homer. 15 minutes later, let's get right back to you. What were you saying?
I hadn't even gotten a chance to start, Ryan, but not knowing everything you guys talked about before, but knowing a little bit, and we touched on this before we went to record, this first scene here, and mac and cheese. And was it mac and cheese? And so I challenge the folks that have just watched it to let us know what they think it is, because it seems to be, it's an open question. There's some ramen noodles in there. How do you like your mac and cheese? Do you use panko, breadcrumbs, all that stuff? But I really, for me, this episode, I watched it and I was like, oh, it's better than I remember. And I had forgotten how Nog failed that first time to challenge the Klingons. In fact, he's just like, leave me here until they're gone. And then afterwards, he and Martok, I was like, he's dead, but no. And so that very last scene when there's the turbo lift, I think it is, and Martok is coming onto, and it's like, cadet or ensign or whatever it was. And it's like, oh yeah, that was nice. There was that mutual respect. And then you have the scene of Nog and Kira, and she's like, what was that about? And that was that was a good feeling type of scene to see for Nog.
His answer was respect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Good stuff. You guys have any guesses as to what was in there? Melissa and Cirroc, I believe, were surmising possibly ramen noodles as well, and shell pastas, like you mentioned.
Yeah, there has to be some of the elbow macaroni stuff, I think.
It looked like shell pasta to me, but
Is it shell pasta?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was trying to remember what the hell it was. I couldn't figure it out. I paused it and I'm like, what was that?
Did you
I
actually
took a
have to
huge
eat
bite
it?
in the beginning.
Yeah,
You did
I
take
thought
a
the
bite.
little chunks were the squid, because that's what Nog was eating at the beginning. And that's what he was referring to, it being his favorite human food.
Oh yeah, I know there was no squid in there because that would have I wouldn't take it. It would have went down.
Cirroc, you mentioned before how oftentimes the food that they made you eat was actually pretty good, like the jambalaya or whatever. But what was the worst thing that you had to pretend to eat or enjoy, where you're just like, either it was good food that had gone really cold, or it was just like you didn't know what the hell it was?
Oh man, that's crazy. I think the worst thing was those little those
Jumjo sticks.
Jumjo sticks.
I knew it.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were.
It
It wasn't really anything. It was like
No flavor added to it?
No, it was like rubber.
Wow. They could have added some flavor at least.
It was like licking Odo's mask. It was not. There was nothing. There was no flavor. It wasn't actually
just
even a
Jell-O,
thing. I think it was like a gelatinous.
Yeah.
Yeah, a gelatinous mass. So pretending to eat that and like just trying to lick that was nasty. But usually I'd be really particular. So if I couldn't stomach it, they couldn't use it. Right. I'm not going to take big bites of this nasty tasting thing and keep doing take it. So it had to be something that was tolerable for me. But the worst thing was those sticks, man. Didn't like it.
That sticks. All right. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this episode? Eve, do you have any goodies for us?
I mean, I think my favorite bit was definitely the first bit when they were talking about Mann and how he'd gone off screaming, thinking he was going to die. I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. And it was just such a nice thing to add in. It just shows they have so much fun with it. I just pictured that, and I just really wanted to see that. So I was a bit disappointed they didn't show it.
Well, he was naked.
Hilarious. But I just think, I think what I really liked about this episode it's really good. You could really tell it was Kim Friedman again directing it in that sort of small space when they got to the planet. And I just loved how they sort of combined the very bright sections, but then they had all those slatted lights coming through, so you'd have those really close-up shots of Sisko and Eddington, and then they'd only have a tiny bit of light on them. And the contrast, I thought that was really, really well done, and how they made it so dramatic with the fog and all of that sort of stuff. And apparently, one thing that Kim said to the crew in terms of what she was trying to go for, she was saying it's basically Shakespeare in space, which I thought really does bring it all together in terms of the action. But then you had those really great dialogue pieces and quite intense emotional moments. So I thought that was really cool. And then one bit on the fog, this is just a really random fact that the companion talks about, is apparently they had so much fog that some of the stunt guys for the Gemini really struggled with it because it was such a thick fog, and they had it in the set for such a long time, obviously because most of it was filmed in that section. So I felt a bit sorry for those guys with the fog. Yeah. Oh, actually, there's one other special effect point which I thought was quite interesting. You know, when they're in the Badlands and they have all of those vortex fire spiral things, they said that apparently that's how they always wanted to envision the Badlands, but never really got the sort of the technology for the CGI all of it right. But what they did, which I thought sounded really good fun, is they tested all these different types of boxes to try to get this fire to do that sort of shape. So they ended up with this octagonal box, which they sort of painted black inside and basically put loads of nitrogen in it and set it on fire with propane and just filmed these 8-foot columns of fire that they then used, and they could sort of adjust the fire footage for different sections. I thought that was really cool because I actually thought that did look really realistic, and obviously it was real footage of real fire. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, that's good knowledge.
Yeah,
great knowledge.
Yeah. Good.
And I was thinking to myself, are they in the Badlands or are they in hell? Because it's like a hellish place to me. I'm like, where the hell do you land in a all fire place?
Well, Sue, do you have any thoughts on the episode?
Oh, I have 3 pages of thoughts. I thought it was really good. And those guys at IMDb, I don't get it. I looked to see what the rating was.
Oh, what did I rate this?
It's
10.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it should be a 10. Damn straight. This episode had everything. It had humor. I mean, right from the very beginning when Jake says, or get your butt kicked by the Klingons. I thought it was hilarious. And then they take a character that you hated, and in the end, you end up having empathy for him. I mean, that's hard to do. And he dies. The last word out of his mouth is the name of his wife.
Yeah.
The guy was, human after all. And I have a bunch of little nitpicks about this episode, but there was so much packed into it. I loved it, and I hadn't seen it for a while. And I actually watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again today.
Wow.
So it's really fresh in my mind. And I have a bunch of really strange nitpicks, but they're...
Let's hear your 2 strangest nitpicks.
My 2 strangest nitpicks. Okay,
Yeah.
That napkin that you were wearing, that's not going to soak up anything. That's
That's a solid nitpick. That is legit.
What the hell? At first, I thought, is that a tie? What the hell is that?
It's just going to smear it around.
No. The Klingons would never make a deal with the Maquis and sell them cloaking machines, or whatever you call them, cloaking drives. No, it's not going to happen. And what's with Michael Eddington? He's clean shaven and he's wearing the same clothes he was arrested in. What's up? What's the deal with that? So they let him shave, but they don't let him change his clothes. He's wearing that same leather jacket and everything. And a good nitpick is the fabric, as usual, for Quark's jacket. Unbelievable. That I guarantee that fabric is probably like $300 a yard or something like that. Just his outfits are awesome.
Yeah.
I love.
No, go ahead, please.
I loved that they had, typical for Ferengi, he knows how many decibels it is for disturbing the peace. I love that. And I loved what they did with Nog, making him, he's getting more and more respectable. I mean, on Ferenginar, he would be an outcast, but with humans, he's turning out to be, I guess, is human the right word? I mean, he's smart. He's not afraid of, I said this before, he's definitely commander material. He learns fast. He's such a great character. And I'm wondering, Cirroc, did they plan that from the beginning to have his character change and morph into this really good guy? The way he was at the end the opening scene in the first episode, he's stealing something. And now he's standing up to the Klingons.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they planned. I actually asked myself about Eddington in the beginning as well as I was watching this episode. I was like, did they plan for Eddington to have this much growth and development throughout the show, or did they say, hey, let's pick a guy, and he's around, or did they originally, right when they put him on from the first episode, say, oh, we have this whole plot line for him, he's going to be this deceptive person, but then where he's going to be redeemed at the end? Like, I don't know how far ahead they look, but I can say that there is something that is drawn on from whoever the real person is that is extrapolated, right? They take whatever characters, qualities that come up and show up on film, and they say, okay, this is what we're seeing on the camera. This is what we're looking at the dailies, and we're watching the replays of all the episodes and the takes and the outtakes. And there's something that they're looking for as far as what that person kind of appears to them as. And I think they go in the direction of that. And so I don't know how much of it is influenced by that, but I think that it's the actual person himself that makes them lean that way. And I think Aaron, because Aaron himself was like a perfectionist and really concerned about getting the job done right and getting his respect amongst his peers and other people.
Right.
It seemed like they extrapolated from that. And whether that's the case or not, I don't know, but it seems as though they said, because Aaron is not a pickpocket little thief who like runs around trying to get into trouble. And they started out with him like that. He said, okay, well, he's going to be a mischievous like kind of guy. So he was acting on that part. But when they actually find out who he is as a person, I think they start to alter the character too, if that makes any sense. And they're like, well, this is what we're seeing, and who he is coming through as this, coming across as this, and let's kind of mold it in that direction. So it's a curious question for me, because I don't know how far in advance that they were planning. I know that you do the first season. Maybe they had the first season spec'd out for the pitch when they pitched the idea to Paramount. So I don't know that they had 5 seasons already laid out. I'm pretty sure they only had about maybe the first half of or the first season laid out about what they wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, there's one actually interesting point talking about what they sort of planned for everyone. In the companion, it talks about what the decision to kill off Eddington, and they said they really liked him, but they said they'd got to the stage in the whole production of the series and where the story was going to go, that they needed to close off a few loose ends, his storyline being one of them. And they wanted to resolve that nice and neatly, and decided, okay, we're just going to give him this Steve McQueen death and try to make him a bit more heroic and add a bit more flavor to his character, I think, to give that bit more of the empathy that Sue mentioned. But it was interesting. They said that what they really wanted to do is kill off all of the Maquis and make it much darker, but then decided that they needed to keep it open because in case Voyager ever needed more Maquis at some point. So that's the only reason why they didn't have a completely different fate. So so it's interesting that they wanted something much more traumatic, I think, for the Maquis, even though it was pretty dark anyway. But
yeah, I thought about that when we saw this episode. It was about 2 years after Voyager went into the Delta Quadrant. So, because at first I was like, wait a minute, how's this working out? Okay, yeah, and it definitely does work out. But that is interesting. In case Voyager needs more Maquis out in the Delta Quadrant, who knows? But they're like, hey, it's sci-fi, man. Don't overthink it. It's just go with it.
It's interesting though, because then like the next year they talk about the Maquis and like how badly the Maquis are faring during Dominion War, and that's on Voyager. But like there's a whole year in between like this episode and that.
Yeah. So what happened in your headcanon for them to have been almost wiped out and then come back up, and now they're not faring well again?
I have a lot of things that I loved about this episode too that I wrote down, not just nitpicks, things that I thought besides Nog. I love the Nog line where he busts Jake's chops about doing more than talking to girls.
Oh man. Yeah. He eviscerated you there.
Yeah, we got that. Hey, at least I bring girls over.
Oh my God, that was so cute.
That was my comeback.
So
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I love on the Defiant when Sisko puts his legs up on the console and lets Eddington try to get him to take over. I love that. Putting his legs up.
Very confident.
Excellent.
I feel like Nog and like Major Kira start having a really cute relationship like around this part of the series. And she even like says little things to him that she would never say to anybody else. Like when she says like whatever I think he found her earring or whatever. And he's like, and she goes, and you're doing it with style. They have like such a cute little relationship there.
Yeah, that's great.
Who else does Major Kira talk to like that? I love it.
Yeah.
So, Tim, I don't know if you've seen this episode recently, or if you remember it from back in the day. Were there any things that stood out to you from? Because a lot of times when you watched it a long time ago, there's just like a specific message that really stood out. And if you watch it recently, you've got all these certain little, smaller points that you focus in on.
Well, I actually watched it about an hour ago.
Oh,
again.
nice.
I preferred the Nog story arc. I disagree with Sue in that I had no empathy for Eddington whatsoever. And
Military man talking.
I was kind of bothered. I was kind of bothered at the very end when Sisko was, kind of justifying what Eddington had done. So yes, the military part of me said he was a traitor. And I mean, he had fooled him into taking him back to get to find his wife. So I really did not prefer that storyline. So it was not one of my favorite episodes, but and I'm kind of glad at the end when Eddington's gone, okay, we don't have to revisit that anymore. So.
You're like, good riddance. Good. Tie up that loose end, moving on. But what did you like about the other storyline with Jake and Nog and Captain Sisko cooking and all that?
Well, I like the fact that, because like I said, I'm career military, but I've seen a lot of junior officers who evolve just like Nog did. Especially since I was an enlisted, it was kind of fun to see the young cadets or the ensigns scared of their own shadow, and see them finally, stop to step up and realize, okay, I'm an officer now, so they have to respect me. But yeah, early on, it's like I like to see that evolution they had of him.
It's really cool. It's really cool seeing little bits and pieces in different episodes of Nog's ascension, bit by bit by bit, taking a step up that ladder or up those stairs. All right, do we have any final thoughts before we got to run and close out, tie up the loose ends that are the free-for-alls for this week?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Dr. Gruner, I kind of agree with you about the selling them the cloaking mechanism. I was like, I don't like the Romulans only gave away that cloaking stuff when like they leased it out and you had to be there. Like that's high level technology. We're not just giving that away to a bunch of rogue fighters. That's my. I agree with you on that.
While Martok was a changeling, and like the founders are just trying to like make chaos ensue even more in the Alpha Quadrant. But I don't know the timing for it.
Ooh, headcanon right there.
Good question.
Yeah.
Companion does say that they deliberately wanted to emphasize the fact that the Klingons are on the station and that they're just there for the wider plot arc. So it might have been one of the reasons why they just had to come up with some reason, some link to the Klingons just to bring Martok into it more possibly.
That companion just keeps on giving.
I love hearing about it.
I love that the companion almost has taken on a life of its own, and it reminds me of the TOS episode Metamorphosis. And so I'm thinking of this thing that's there with Zephyrin Cochrane.
Which one is Metamorphosis?
So it's the one
it's
where
not the one with Pulaski, right?
No. Pulaski, no. Pulaski's TNG. So TOS.
TOS. Got it.
It's me.
Yeah. So it's Zephyrin Cochrane is on this planet, and there's this thing that is caring for him. And then there's who's there who is terminally ill, and she and the companion sort of combine together, and they keep Zephyrin company. So I just like the idea of thinking of the companion, a book that's right here, as this sort of sentient being that's company hanging out with us. Exactly.
Like Badgie.
Well, yeah, sort of. But
what if the companion became
sketchy?
So mean.
All right. Well, we do have to run. We do want to say a very special thanks to Dr. Marie Segal and Dr. Susan B. Gruner, as well as Eve England out in Wales, Malissa Longer, Homer Freezy, and Timothy Baum. Cirroc, that was a fun time, huh? We'll see you all again very soon, like tomorrow or in a week. So thank you all very much. And always remember the 7th rule.